This week we trek out what's happening with Star Trek under ViacomCBS, all the happenings in Star Trek gaming, and we remember the late Rene Auberjonois.
Priority 1 message from Starfleet coming in on secured channel.
One of Star Trek Picard's greatest production moves was hiring Pulitzer Prize-winning author Michael Chabon. The 56-year-old DC native and self-proclaimed Trekkie was named showrunner of Star Trek Picard this past summer. But with only one season under his belt, a season that hasn't even been broadcast yet, Chabon is already stepping down from that position. Reported on Tuesday, December 10th by Variety, Chabon will be leaving Picard, one of IMDb's most anticipated shows of 2020. He's off to lead a series adaptation of his award-winning The Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay for ViacomCBS-owned Showtime. Chabon and his wife, producing partner Ailette Waldman, will serve as executive producers and showrunners for the series, with Star Trek alums Akiva Goldsman and Alex Kurtzman joining the executive producer team. But what does this mean for Star Trek Picard? Well, for starters, it would seem that my predictions that this was going to be the only season for Star Trek Picard, because it was going to be his swan song, a la Logan, for instance, well, that seems to be wrong now. You see, just a few days after Chabon's move was announced, Deadline's Dominic Patton reported that CBS was granted over $20 million in tax breaks by the state of California via the California Film Commission. However, ViacomCBS have yet to make an official announcement. I guess ViacomCBS is confident that Picard is a sure winner. Though, are they putting the proverbial cart before the horse? What do you think? Is ViacomCBS making a smart move, already thinking about a second season of Picard when we haven't even seen the first? Well, Captain's hailing frequencies are now open, and we want to hear from you. So just comment down below. And while we're on the topic of highly anticipated Star Trek content, Alex Warpin of The Hollywood Reporter wrote an article on December 9th that ViacomCBS CEO Bob Bakish is looking to capitalize on the massive library of content now available, thanks, of course, to the merger. But how might that affect development of new Star Trek content? Well, according to Warpin, during the UBS Global Technology, Media, and Telecommunications Conference in New York, Bakish told investors, quote, "The company will unite franchises like Star Trek, bringing together TV shows and films from the series." Bakish said there are currently 2 new Star Trek films in development, end quote. So, 2 new Star Trek films in development. Could one of these projects also include the infamous Quentin Tarantino-led installment? Probably not, because it turns out Tarantino wants to distance himself from the franchise. During an interview with Consequence of Sound, Tarantino had this to say, quote, "I think I'm steering away from Star Trek, but I haven't had an official conversation with those guys yet," end quote. It seems that he's not quite certain he wants Star Trek to be his 10th and perhaps final film. He goes on to say, quote, "But in a weird way, it actually kind of freed me up. I mean, I have no idea what the story of the next one's going to be. I don't even have a clue," end quote. Now, this could be in reference to the next Star Trek film or his 10th film. Either way, it seems that Tarantino is no longer interested in taking the helm of Star Trek. So, where does this lead the next film? Well, right now, all we have to go on are these little Trek nuggets of information from events and interviews like these, because most of the time, even the actors themselves don't know what's going on. Take Karl Urban, for instance. When speaking with GQ about his Amazon superhero series, The Boys, guess what also came up? Star Trek. Star Trek came up. He had this to say, quote, "Mate, if I had $1 for every time I heard that another Star Trek movie was happening, I'd be mortgage-free," end quote. And what about that Pike series? Well, when talking with SyFy.com, Anson Mount explained, quote, "Well, I come from a long line of Southern bullshitters. I love really good bullshit. I wish I could be bullshitting and tell you that I can't say anything, or I don't know. The thing I keep having to disavow people of is the idea that actors know anything. We are always the last to learn anything, and I've been a regular on shows in which the drivers get scripts before we do. We are barely useful idiots." End quote. In other words, he doesn't know either. But stay tuned here, and of course, be sure to subscribe to Priority One Podcast on your favorite podcast app so that every Friday you can be kept up to speed on the possibility of the hopeful series. Moving on to gaming, Cryptic Studios is so cryptic. On Tuesday, December 10th, Star Trek Online released a heavily redacted report from the Federation Astrophysics database, highlighting the important, noted astrophysical anomalies of the Mycelial network. And many point to galaxy-hopping anomalies previously encountered in our favorite MMO. But what does it all mean? Good question. With references to the Briar Patch, fluidic space, and the Iconian Gateway system, it's sure to have a big impact on upcoming gameplay. To hear more of our thoughts on this new Star Trek Online graphic, be sure to listen to Priority One Podcast episode 441, already released. Yogcast Jingle Jam, it's just fun to say. Yogcast Jingle Jam, I've got no clue what it is. Well, at least until I read the article. Because Yogcast's Jingle Jam is a fundraiser run by Humble Bundle that allows gamers to purchase a bundle of games and add-ons with 100% of every dollar going to charity. So, for $30 or more, players will receive over 50 games and packs, including games like Bastion and Company of Heroes, and expansions from Neverwinter and Star Trek Online. This year's Star Trek Online offering is the Federation Elite Starter Pack, which includes the Tier 6 Reliant, Starfleet Academy uniform, and goodies to help toons, new and old, navigate the galaxy. For a full list of everything you get from your Yogcast's Jingle Jam donation, the charities receiving the donations, and what's in the Federation Elite Starter Pack, check out our link in the description. And lastly, captains, it is with deep sadness that we report the passing of Rene Auberjonois. The Tony Award-winning actor and New York native spent most of his life on stage and screen, garnering critical and public acclaim in roles that included Benson's Clayton Endicott III, Disney's The Little Mermaid's Chef Louis, and MASH's Army Chaplain Father John. And of course, the gruff, lovable, shape-shifting Constable Odo on Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Auberjonois, who passed away on Sunday, December 8th of metastatic lung cancer, worked closely with Doctors Without Borders, selling autographed illustrations of Odo's bucket to his many adoring fans to benefit the charity. Auberjonois is survived by his wife of 56 years, Judith Auberjonois, 2 children and 3 grandchildren. He was 79 years old. We would also like to recognize the passing of actor Robert Walker Jr. and musician Michael Lamper. Robert Walker Jr., who passed on Thursday, December 5th, had roles in several popular series, including Charlie's Angels, Chips, and most famously as Charlie X in the second aired episode of Star Trek. Walker is survived by his wife Dawn, with 7 children and 5 grandchildren. He was 79 years old. Michael Lamper, husband of Star Trek The Next Generation's star Marina Sirtis, passed on December 7th. On December 8th, Sirtis tweeted, quote, "I'm going to be gone for a while. My beloved husband passed away peacefully in his sleep last night. For those of you waiting for a shout-out on Cameo, please forgive me. I don't feel up to it. I'll let you know when the service is back on." End quote. Michael Lamper was 61 years old. For a deeper dive into these headlines and more, be sure to open up your favorite podcast app and do a search for Roddenberry. There you'll find our show, along with all the others on the Roddenberry Podcast Network. On Priority One each week, I'm joined by co-hosts Kat and Anthony to discuss the entire Star Trek multiverse in depth, including movies, shows, and even Star Trek gaming. And of course, if you're looking for more great Star Trek-themed content, visit Roddenberry.com for a list of all the shows on the Roddenberry Podcast Network. Most importantly, hit those like buttons, subscribe, follow buttons, and of course, tell your friends about the show, because it's your support that keeps us going.
Priority 1 message from Starfleet coming in on secured channel.